Hello, it's nice to have you with us. A very lovely viewers glued to Providence Television International. This is live streaming and we are having a special program just now. It's a special interview with a priest, and his name is Reverend Father Osematie Okwilegbe. Why do we need to interview him? He was a personal secretary, former personal secretary, to the late Archbishop Emeritus Patrick Ekpu. And as you all know, Archbishop Ekpu passed on not too long ago at the age of 92 years. I did an interview with him. We'll talk about that maybe some other time. When he was 70 years old, I had a wonderful interview with him. It will bring some pleasant memories back. But on this occasion, we are talking with this priest who has come all the way from Port Harcourt to come and discuss with us on the life and times of Archbishop Ekpu. A great man by our standard, a wonderful cleric who carried on with diligence and propriety. He was a man that a lot of people loved. They loved him so much because he was pastorally minded and he was given to sound administration. I won't say all of that. I think that the priest is in a very good position, a better position perhaps to talk about him. Father, you're welcome.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes.
Good afternoon, viewers too.
Yes. And we are talking about viewers both at home and abroad who are watching us right now. Let's talk about how you met him. How did you meet the late Archbishop?
Okay. I think I met him on several instances, in the sense that sacramentally he was the one who confirmed me as a child, as a growing child, then far back in Uzea. And on several occasions he came to Uzea for pastoral visits, and each time they were still under St. Anthony, which is now the cathedral seat. Then it was a parish with 26 outstations, and Uzea, about 5 or 6 of the outstations were in Uzea. So when he comes on pastoral visit, he dedicated a day to Uzea. He visited most of the outstations, and he had a special interest in it.
What was he then?
He was ordinary. I think as far back as then, he was the bishop. Even when after 1994, he became the archbishop. He didn't stop the pastoral visit.
Okay.
He was still coming.
Okay. How will you place him? How will you describe him?
He's a man of many branches. That each time you want to discuss him, you always do a disservice. When you talk pastorally, you seem to undermine his administrative prowess. And when you talk about his administrative excellence, you seem to undermine his own personal life. I lived with him for over half a decade, so I saw a man who, not just a priest, a man who knows how to follow God. Yeah, I met him.
And he was very prayerful as well.
Yeah, about 4 days ago, I wrote a piece which I titled, "I Never Met a Man So Pious." And there I expressed deeply, not just his own prayer life, the atmosphere in his retirement. For the 18 years he was retired before his demise, I had occasion of visiting those who came before me as his personal assistant and of working with him. The life of prayer in that place is one that you won't see anywhere. He was virtually and physically. In as much as he is true, at his free time he will follow EWTN. He knows how. Until the advent of Lumen Christi, we had time for each of their spiritual exercises. So when we leave the chapel, we return to the room. I properly learned what is meant. I heard the word Lectio Divina before then, but it was in him I understood what is meant by Lectio Divina.
He was given to silence.
A man, in short, a deafening silence, a voluminous one.
Yeah.
That when you live with him, you will know how to keep quiet and how to contemplate. Yes, he's a man that no one can discuss exhaustively. But meeting him was always an opportunity and a privilege.
Will you also consider him to have been self-effacing? He never chested out, right?
Indeed, not only that, he never did it. He would always advise you not to advertise yourself. You are a servant, and we are told that after you've done everything, just simply say, "We are nothing but mere servants." You are saying to go and evangelize the people for God. One of the pieces I wrote in his honor, I said he was handed the people and he handed the people over to God.
Good.
That
Good.
was what he did. Not to himself, but he believed that we are meant to gather for God, not to ourselves.
Good.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. How do you imagine that people also saw him?
The first piece I wrote after the news of his death, because personally I was touched, not just because I lived with him for half a decade, because on the very day of my defense, prior to it, I told him, and at the very day, immediately I returned to my room, he was the first person that called me to say how was it in his old age. That was just June 10th behind, 2 months away, to say how did it go. I explained everything to him, and he was very, very, very much impressed. And looking at him after his death, I wrote a piece, The Aura of Archbishop Eku. When you meet him, even without being told, you know he's a man of God.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes.
The aura that follows him, I think it wasn't anything that was invented. It was a special privilege that God just imposed on him. When you see him, meeting him actually inspires you to contemplate.
So he had this spectacular aura around him.
In short, it's inexpressible. It's better to meet him than to talk about him.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's simply better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Will you consider him your role model?
Not just my role model, that even after his death, I still look up to him. I am happy I was in the seminary, but it was in him I knew how to become a priest. Yes.
Yeah.
The Mass is not just an exercise that is performed as an obligation. It is an encounter. When you go there, fulfill all the obligation. Pray all the silent and the public prayers. Vest fully. Maintain the appropriate decorum. Never skip any of them. It was in him I realized it. Faithfulness to the office. No matter the level of sickness, he will pray the office. The Angelus is not just a ritual that is meant for selected Catholic. It is both for the clerics and for the other.
Exactly.
So in him, no prayer is to be skipped. Pray them and pray them with a sense that you are talking to a being that is superior to you. So sincerely speaking, he is a model to myself, to as many that encountered him. And I thank him for being accessible to, even in his old age. Seminarians who came through me, they found him a special person to always meet.
What about his private life, for instance? Were you able to key into that as well?
I did, and I smiled a few days back when I was writing about his timeliness. Yes, I said he's a man that he has, apart from God, humanity, and the church. I think the fourth thing he valued very much was time. Time for him was something you can't negotiate. Once it's time for prayer, be there. It was difficult for me, sincerely, coming in, but it didn't take long because he is somebody who will never frown at you. When you come late, he will ask you, are you fine?
Oh.
That's the first thing. When he discovered that your voice has changed, he will ask you, have you eaten?
Oh.
He was so caring and, in short, a father to the call. So, seeing how it was, you would ordinarily like to be with him. If he sends you a message, tell him, we ask you, how long will it take? Say, Your Grace, I think it's going to take up to an hour. If you get there, notify him if he's going to sleep over.
I would probably just buttress that from my own personal experience. I went to book an appointment with him. And there were about a couple of priests there waiting. He said, no, the priest should wait, I should come in. I was humbled. But he didn't stop there. He said, Emmanuel, can I offer you a drink? I said, no, Your Grace, that's not possible. He said, no. He went outside and brought a wine for me. I said, but Your Grace, can I honestly take this? He said, wine. That was him.
Yeah.
And I opened it, and you couldn't believe it, that it was just human. Yes, that was his nature. I think probably just to buttress what you are saying, that it was very approachable. But I think a lot of people saw him differently because of his quiet attitude and because of his courage. Will you agree with them?
I do.
Yes.
Even not just a lot of persons, there are even priests. Yeah, because ordinarily when you stand afar, you see somebody who should not be approached, especially by his standard. There is this psychological challenge you have. Am I fit to be there?
To be there.
Yeah. Yes. But if you dare, you wouldn't like to leave. you would like to
That's
remain.
true.
Apparently.
That's true. That's true.
Yes, you would like to remain.
The much you know about him, did he have weaknesses?
Apparently, he is human too. Just as I said, if actually I am an expert in guidance and counseling, so I have a handful of psychology. He is somebody who like everything to be done perfectly.
Perfectly, yes.
So if you don't do it perfectly, even at a time you yourself will get a little tired. He wants you to do it the way it should be done. So if it is not right, he is very patient, but you have to do it correctly. So at a point you are a little worn out, but he tells you do it. And again, he believes an expert should be used for what the expert is meant for. So you trying to tell him that you want to use a surface theory for an established formula is something he will never accept.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Yes.
so most of the time you tell yourself, "Your Grace, I can do it," but he tells you no. Tell the person who knows how to do it to come.
Was he a rigid person?
Not rigid, in the sense that, yes, I would say partly rigid, in the sense that most of us want it the very way, easy way. Like for instance, let me give you an instance about what I wrote last time. My first encounter with him that shocked me in terms of prayer was the day we traveled. So we returned late at about 5. After a little rest, he said, "Let's begin the prayers." I thought we would go straight to the Vespers, the evening prayer. So immediately I introduced the prayer. I took the hymn for the Vespers. So after the hymn, after the hymn, he told me, "Begin with midday prayer." For me, it was like, will I survive this? Because the implication of that is that I will take the midday prayer, take the Vespers, take the compline, then move to Lectio Divina.
Oh yeah.
This was almost going to be an exercise of over 2 hours. So looking at it, he wants it to be done. You won't do it in the way that is like a simplified manner. Follow it, but not to your detriment, but according to established rules.
Okay.
So for people who find it difficult to follow rules or norms, he is a rigid person. But for those who believe that, who know that he was not just a person, he was a custodian.
Yes.
Yeah. So you don't destroy what is placed under your child.
Will you consider him an institution?
Oh, if you say that, I think he wasn't just an institution, he's a ground institution.
Yes.
That is an institution that gave birth to so many institutions in persons and in establishments. So when you see him, you know that those who actually take him as their model, they grew up to becoming just institutions of their.
That's right. That's right. That's amazing. That's amazing. I'm sure you also knew some of his contemporaries. How did they view him? People like Calabar Job.
Not just Calabar, the cardinal.
Yes.
Because it's his brother, he will always come around. Yes. I respect him.
You're talking about
Cardinal Okoji.
Yes.
And the respect Cardinal Okoji has for him was something that even challenged my own respect, because for several occasions he was around. You see that when you meet him to say, "We ask you, what did the Archbishop say?" He said, "No, the Archbishop said I should ask you how you want it." He said, "No, whatever he wants is all right by me." Apparently, I was, wow, what is this? And you would see that all the time. He wants you, okay, whatever he wants, just respect it. Let's follow it that way. That respect was always there. Sincerely speaking, and I condole with him because I know he will be personally affected,
personally touched. Yes, personally touched.
Yeah.
Now you will feel bad, perhaps, because he wasn't made a cardinal.
No, no. I don't think he ever had it in mind that he wants to be a cardinal. Not at all. Okay. He was. I think he never considered himself as attaining the bishopric by perfection. Okay. It was a favor from God. Yeah, and I believe that all through his years, he actually believed that. He was always satisfied with his position. I always say he was apolitical, but not as if, it's not as if he wasn't preaching to those in the political offices, but for him, he has no political aspirations. So that was just him.
That's right. Yeah. Thank you very much, Father. He became a bishop at a relatively young age, I think about 40 years or thereabout. How did that prepare him for the office?
Okay, if I may say something, I think their formation to a good extent has a way of making things lighter for them. Okay. One, when they were coming in was actually when this degeneralization and nationalization policy was coming on board. Yes. They were actually knowing that as these people were going, they would be confronted with this challenge. And going for further studies, I think some of them already had a hint of when you come back, you might, even when you are not certain.
With rights of succession.
Yes. So when he came back, I think personally he's somebody who has a maturity. So no challenge was actually a surprise to him as much as even in his retirement.
Yes.
He's never surprised. He was never surprised.
Yeah, he succeeded Bishop Kelly, the late Bishop Kelly, with rights of succession.
Yes.
Okay. And were there people before him who should have been bishops then?
Yeah, there were quite people who were older, but you know that the bishopric is not actually based on seniority or for anything. It is based on God's grace and the church's discernment. So it's not a matter of who is older, but it's just the favor of God. He's a bishop for the people, not a bishop unto himself.
That's right.
Yes,
That's right. So he had a very wide arena, for instance, from Benin to Agenebode and all of that. That must have put some pressure on him, really.
He did, because as at when he came in, there were barely 5 parishes in the whole of Edo State, as at which we called the old Benin diocese. Just Benin. In short, I think the parish at Agenebode was having problem or fuga. It was shut down, so it was actually 4 viable ones. So the first challenge in my interaction with him, apart from the places where the people could possibly gather, there were no adequate hand to do this. He met less than 10 priests. You imagine from Ologbo down to Agenebode, to Ibilo and the rest. How do you do it? So
was he overwhelmed?
No, he wasn't overwhelmed because he had never failed to believe in God. Being called to it, he knew. He will only tell you the first challenge I have to confront.
Yeah, but did people accuse him of not creating Auchi diocese and Uromi diocese?
There are always aspirations.
Okay.
You understand? For you, the average child desires independence, but the average parent believes that the child needs to be matured. So for him, becoming a diocese is not just a territorial matter.
Okay.
There are so many things that should be on ground. One thing he would always tell me, if a church cannot sustain itself from within, the church is not still viable enough.
Oh, really?
In terms of human resources, in terms of material resources, if external assistance is severed, can the church stand? So it would be to his advantage if these places were all as early as possible created. But for him, allowing them to go and they are unable to stand wouldn't be as if he had done it good. So when the appropriate time came, now you look at them, immediately they were created. The growth was exponential.
It was exponential, yes, that's true. That's true. And he will have been happier for it.
Oh, of course.
Yes,
he was.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. How did you feel? I must ask you this question. In the later part of his years, he had visual impairment, okay, and that kept him away for some time. How were you sentimentally attached to him, to the extent where you felt that no, that shouldn't have happened to him?
Okay. Now, before I answer that question, let me have a little background to it. There are 2 things I admire. I admire so much about him, but there are 2 things outstanding in terms of the condition you just highlighted.
Yes.
One, I stayed with him for almost 6 years. Of all the 5 priests I worked with him for the 18 years, I stayed for a longer time. So, for the time I was with him, I can assuredly tell you, this man never complained for once. That is one thing till today. I don't know how it happened.
Complained about what?
He never complained about health for once. There were actually some occasions we would prepare for an event. After some time, there was even a day we were prepared to go to Uromi for a celebration. The car was already warmed. Yeah, he had it part. He was sitting. Time himself just said, "Take the car to the park." I said, "Your Grace, we're not going again." He smiled and said, "Old age, old age." He just said, "Not for once." And 2, I met him as a retired archbishop, and so also some of the sisters and the priests will work together. But not minding the fact that he never knew us as children, the trust this man had in us is something that even if you are the devil's assistant, you will behave well.
Okay.
He trusted us so well to the extent that you just know that the only thing you have to do is to behave accordingly. So seeing that you were measuring up, I think he was always very satisfied. So he didn't complain. For me, seeing the level of trust, I stayed with him. Indeed, when I say I stayed with him, I was always there.
So you knew him much, really?
Indeed, I did.
Did he ever have dull moments?
Dull, of course. Yeah, where? I remember when his only brother died.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yes.
It was actually a very painful experience
and devastating
for him,
too.
a very shocking one for him. So there were few instances of death that we even found it difficult to make known to him. So it was actually like, how do we break this news? At the time, thanks to Archbishop Akubeze, thanks to Father Steve Okoje, and the doctor like Ofuegbu and Daudu, would say, okay, wait, we'll come around. So the Archbishop will come, those other persons will come, they'll find a way to step down the information. So quite well, there was actually some dull moments like that.
There was some kind of mystery around the late Archbishop. It came from an ATR background. Are you aware of that?
Of course I do.
How did it evolve?
You know, grace has a way of making a path for itself.
Yeah.
The Archbishop left to Rome at the age of 11, not knowing what he was coming to do in Benin. I think he is one person, in my writings about his pioneering feats, he is the only person who was baptized in Holy Cross Cathedral, was consecrated a bishop, and he has died to be buried in Holy Cross.
In fact, not just, I'm sure you know the crypt. There's a crypt.
Yes, of course.
He will be the first occupant of the crypt.
So he's an inaugural person in so many areas. so I am aware, but I think he's becoming, and his diplomatic personality did not only wipe out the idea of the so-called paganism or idol worship in his family, but when I was in Lumekristi, I was going to Onuwazi to assist the
his home place.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if you get to that place today, it's difficult to see an idol worshipper. The name Ekpu is a song in the list of everybody, and in him,
are you also aware, Father, that he refused to change the name Ebusele? Ebusele is ascribed to, can we say paganism?
Yeah.
Yes, but he refused to change it.
He didn't change it. You don't need actually to deny your roots.
Exactly.
But through it, you can inspire many persons.
Yes.
Names in Africa, they are not tags. They are bearers of histories. So that when you see a particular name, it tells you about the origin of a person and circumstances surrounding the birth of that person.
That is true.
In the several biographies of him I have written, that name alone gave me opportunity to do exploit about this person. So absolutely, there was no need to change it.
Let's talk about his burial. What are the unique things about this?
Yes, just as I have said, now, he is the first Archbishop of the province of Benin. So he's the first to be buried in Benin province with a pallium. That is something outstanding. And just as you mentioned, the crypt.
The crypt, yes.
He's the first to occupy it. Yes, I wrote extensively about it, and I traced the history about the recent renovation that was done during the time of Father Amadasun, when he was still there.
About
the
renovation. Yes, that's true.
So looking at those things, you would know ordinarily that the burial is going to be a spectacular one.
Yes.
I have talked about the decommissioning of the ring of the bishop in times of interment, and I have explained the difference between the death of an emeritus bishop and the death of an incumbent bishop.
What's the difference?
And of course, by the virtue of retirement, the ring of a bishop is decommissioned. But if the bishop dies in office, his ring has to be decommissioned before the interment.
How do you mean decommissioned? Removed or something?
Yes, there is a unique way of removing it to show the end of an administration. So it's a proper way that is followed in the church. Yeah, have equally discussed that in the church.
In other words, the ring will be buried with him.
The ring will be, it actually depends, one, on so many considerations, in the sense that the ring could be buried, there could be a model of it that is buried with him, why this is preserved as a relic. Because in him, I think we hope for a saint.
Really?
Yes, indeed. If the way he served God to the best of our knowledge, and if God, in his mercy, has accepted his homage, he is nothing short of a saint.
I should think so. I should think so. How does Rome get involved in all of this?
The making of a saint, or the becoming of becoming a saint, begins from the local church. So it actually has to be based on the testimony of those who live keenly with him.
Yes, yes.
The fault and the strength of a person is best known by those who were his close allies.
That's right.
So if these people can give objective testimony and the church takes it up and there are miracles to support what has been claimed, Rome is always very happy to see the emergence of saints, especially from Africa. So it will be a good news.
And it's a good subject.
Indeed.
Yes.
So
yes.
It's going to be a very great one.
What do people learn from his entire character, really?
Yeah, so much. So much. It depends on who the people are and what actually they want to learn. If you live close to him, you will value silence.
Silence.
You will value silence. I call him a man ahead of his time. If you look at the way he administered, in his, at his 90th, there was a book that was put together, which I was the editor. The last chapter of that book was captioned The Unfinished Work of Archbishop Egbo. If you look through that area, you will see, do you know what it means for somebody far back before this millennium could think of planning a winery where we would stop the importation of altar wine and domestically be producing it. We are here now by your sole privilege. If you go to the chancery, you will see detailed work that was done by the Archbishop of having a television station in the Archdiocese of Benin. You are aware that the priest retirement home we have in Benin City is the first in Nigeria. The knighthood of St. Paul is the first indigenous knighthood that was founded in Nigeria. He saw the need. And he was somebody who was never deterred by any challenge. A challenge was actually an opportunity for him.
And yet he was unobtrusive.
Very much.
Totally unobtrusive.
Going about it, not telling you to praise him.
That's true.
Not asking you for any reward.
That's true.
Just going about it.
That's true. That's true. So thank you very much, Father.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Father. I'm really very grateful. I mean, it was a short notice, but we had to engage you in this conversation because I suppose we were close enough to him to be able to tell us some of the things you have said. But I guess we could continue with this at some other time because his passing is an event. It goes on and on and on and on, in spite of the fact that it's going to be committed tomorrow, which is Thursday. So we thank our guest, Reverend Father Osematie. I hope I pronounced it correctly. I should because I'm an Edo person. Osematie Ohuelegbe. He's from Muzia in Nissaland. And he's been with us in the last half hour to talk about the life and times of the revered and very selfless, altruistic Archbishop Patrick Egbo. He'll be laid to rest on Thursday, the 22nd in Benin. And we must thank all our viewers at home and abroad, particularly those who have viewed this program in the diaspora. We need your responses as much as possible. Go to the comment section, talk about who you knew him to be, and that's the picture right there. A great, wonderful servant of God. So thank you very much, Father, for coming. Yes, thank you very much. My name is Emmanuel Egarewa. Very soon on this same station, we'll start our old series, which we aired on some other stations. And what is that? The teachings of the Catholic Church. Bye now.